Hey guys, thought I'd do a video with you guys on some of the Hercules stuff I have. I just recently bought this angle diegrinder right here. Um, I already had some Hercules stuff and batteries, so I figured I'd give it a try. I do have the Milwaukee one. The first generation one isn't that great, you know, it cuts out and everything else. I make do with it. This one's supposed to be better according to the reviews on the Torque Test channel. And I thought I'd give it a try. They had a coupon this week for 10% off, so thought I'd go ahead and give it a try. It's a 4-speed, brushless, 5-year warranty. Uh, as you can see, it's brand new. I haven't even used this yet. Got plenty of batteries for it, so no reason not to buy the tool. And something that they're doing with these now is actually putting rubber pads or insulators in here for the battery so it doesn't vibrate and lose connection. Something all the manufacturers are starting to do now. Everybody has their own version of it. But this is something that Hercules is doing. I don't know if it's going to help it or not. I've only had one Hercules tool that I've had a problem with, and I probably have 6 or 7 of them that I'll show you today. But I'm gonna give this a try. You can see this is brand new. I haven't used it much. So far, I'm really impressed with it. The only thing I don't like about it is the trigger, but I do not like the trigger on the Milwaukee as well. They did change it on the newer version, so we'll see if the newer version is better. But as much as I use my Milwaukee one, and I hate changing the bits on it, I figured I would try this, considering I already had the batteries. So eventually in the future, I'll let you know more about this and how it's working out. And maybe by then, maybe I'll have already bought the new Milwaukee as well. So, but so far, I'm liking everything about this. The weight, the configuration, the battery kind of pointed backwards instead of forward, so it doesn't hang over the front. It's got the safety on the trigger, which I don't like. I like the overmold on it. We'll see how long it lasts and see how oil resistant it is. And overall, it's just a little bit smaller on the body, not by much. So, so far, I'm liking everything about this. Time will tell how long it lasts and what I use it for. So, like I said, in the future, I'll give you more updates about this guy. This is just an extra battery I had that I brought in the house. I plan on taking these to work and using them. This is something that I use quite a bit. I use it for gasket cleaning. I use it for buffing headlights and all kinds of other stuff. And you can see by the way it looks, I do use it. So I was using it at home as a gasket cleaner because I didn't have anything at home. Now that I got my compressor up and running, I'll be using my pneumatic tools. So figured I'd take this back to work and start using it again. Like I said, I usually buff headlights with it, usually clean gaskets, rotors before I put them on the brake lathe, and a lot of other miscellaneous jobs. So, and it does have a actual adapter for handle, and it actually has different wheels aside from this one for buffing, polishing, and so forth. So far I've been really impressed with this guy. It's got 2 speeds. It's got a lockout up front here, so it's toolless. So you can loosen and tighten it there. That's one thing I like about this tool. The only thing I don't like about it is the thread on this. You have to buy a special threaded adapter. You use other adapters that use standard thread instead of metric. But that's the only thing I really don't like about this thing, and then it's not brushless. But I've had no problems with this thing. I use it quite a bit. This is kind of my go-to tool over my Milwaukee one because this one doesn't die out. This one does not stop when you put a load on it. It just doesn't fit in most areas that the 90-degree angle diegrinder does. So all in all, really like this one. The only thing it's a downfall to this, you can't put carbide bits in this where you put carbide bits in the other one. But as far as a gasket cleaner, polisher, and so forth like that, this is a great tool. I'm going to move on to a couple other ones that I have here. I'll share with you. Like I said, I didn't have much problem with any of the Hercules stuff. And but this is one of the tools that I had problems with, and I'm scared to use this thing because I've already burnt 4 of these up. I've cut some metal pipe and stuff with it, and if this thing overheats and you stop using it and go back to use it, it just quits on you, overheats and stops working. Had internal parts break on it, and they've warrantied it every time, but Not impressed with this guy at all compared to its predecessor as far as Milwaukee. I have a Milwaukee which is a brush model, and I've overheated that thing, abused it, dropped it, and you name it, and I've never had a problem with it. So out of all the Hercules tools I have, I cannot stand this one at all. Like I said, I'm afraid to use it because every time I use it, I have a tendency to break it. The other thing I don't like about it vibrates a lot. I don't think it's very balanced very well as far as the motor assembly. I don't get nowhere near the vibration out of the Milwaukee stuff that I have. But all in all, you get what you pay for. I took it home, and I mainly use it at home. I cut wood with it. I try not to cut too much metal with it because I'm afraid of it breaking. Like I said, I don't really reach for it because I'm kind of scared it's going to break. We're going to move on to the next one. This is a 1/4 inch impact. This is a brush model. Does not have a whole lot of power. I actually bought this to do dash work so I didn't have to get my greasy tools in someone's car. Problem is a lot of times it just wouldn't break the bolt loose. Defeated the purpose of even having an impact gun in the car. Makes a great runner, but overall I'm not like really impressed with it as far as breaking bolts loose. One of the biggest problem I had is getting steering column bolts loose with this, and this is 1/4 inch. So all in all, it's not a bad tool. It just does not have the power of most of the models on the market today. And it's brushed. For the price of this, you can almost spend another $10-$20 and buy a brushless model and another brand, depending if you're into the battery package that you already have. I happen to have Hercules batteries, so I went ahead and bought this. I believe I bought it for 39 bucks. I have used it, just not overly impressed with it. Kind of brought it home, and like I said, I'll probably go back to using pneumatic tools at the house now that I have a compressor up and running again. Let's move on to the next tool. And I have two of these guys. This is a 3/8 impact, basically the same size as the 1/4 inch. It's just 3/8. This does have a little more oomph to it because of the anvil size. It still don't have enough oomph to really break bolts loose that I want to get loose. Like I said, I used it for dash work. I didn't mind it, like the grip, like how comfortable it is and everything, and I still use it periodically. And I'd happen to be in the store and they had one. It was on the clearance shelf for 17 bucks because it'd been there for a month and no one bought it. So I broke down and bought it. I think I paid $17 for this one, and I paid $39 for this one, I believe. So I went ahead and bought two of them. Why, I don't know. It just, the price was right. Like I said, overall this isn't a really bad tool, but to go from Milwaukee to this, it wasn't cutting it at work. But it makes good, use at home for the odd jobs that I have to do. Like I said, it makes a really good runner. If you have a ratchet with it, you can break something loose. If it's too tight, it works really good for that. All in all, I'm not like totally hating on this thing. Like I said, it's hard to backpedal when you own a Hercules, and then you have a Milwaukee that you depend on every day to do your job, and then you pick this guy up and it just doesn't cut the mustard. So all in all, it's not a bad tool. I have seen many reviews on this that it's a good quality tool. The lifespan of this isn't as long as what some of the others are because it is a brush model. It is not a brushless model. So once again, if you're into another battery platform that offers a brushless model and you have the batteries for it, I would say this is the way to go. But it was a reasonable price. It got me by at home for the few odd jobs I needed to do. We're going to move on to the next one. I got two more here to show you, and I think we'll be done. This is a 3/8 extended ratchet. I've always liked the paddle bit on this particular one because it's not open or anything. It's actually enclosed. It's pointed down instead of pointed up. So I've always liked that about this ratchet. I like the form on it. The only thing I don't like is it's actually a little too long, but it has its places. It's limited to some places that you want to put it because of the battery overhanging. So I wish the battery platform is a little different for this ratchet, or maybe mounted flat like on some of the other ones. But overall, I really like this ratchet. Never really had any issues with it. It's got a typical 1/4 inch drive head that's been converted to 3/8 anvil. And it's 2 pieces. You can see the seam here. So these ain't going to hold up to a lot of torque. You're not going to break lug nuts or anything like that with it. This is actually more rated in the 1/4 inch rim than it is the 3/8 rim. But it's nice because you can fit this in tight areas, do tiny belts and miscellaneous stuff. I've used this quite a bit, and this is what I started with because I didn't want to buy a $400 snap-on ratchet and find out that I didn't like cordless. Not that I'm trying to compare this to a snap-on, because I know the snap-on is going to be better, it's going to have more torque. There's a number of other things that the snap-on is going to do that this isn't going to do. But overall, as far as, you know, battery life, as far as the places it'll fit and other things to determine whether I wanted a cordless ratchet, it answered my questions. And this was really inexpensive. This was like $49, I believe, on clearance shelf. Someone brought it back and didn't want it. I bought it and it was 49 bucks. So being that I already had the batteries, I bought it, and I've been very impressed with it. I haven't had any issues with it. It's got the typical slipping head on a bolt that's too tight that you'll find with most common cheap 1/4 inch ratchets. But for the most part, I haven't had any problems with the head whatsoever. You just can't push the limits of this ratchet because, like I said, it's a 1/4 inch mechanism with a 3/8 anvil on it. But like I said, overall, I'm very impressed with this ratchet. I haven't had any problems with this. I would recommend this to anybody that wanted to buy a 1/4 inch ratchet that just really want to spend the money on something more expensive, DeWalt, a Milwaukee, or even a Snap-on. This has got me by, and it's answered all the questions that I wanted as far as, do I want a cordless ratchet with a long neck on it? And yes, I ended up pulling the trigger and I bought a Snap-on. I did not buy it from the Snap-on truck. I actually bought it used on eBay. Paid a reasonable amount of money for it, and I've been happy with it. But all in all, this is a great ratchet. I still use it at home, and I'll probably continue to use it at home because I have a number of other ratchets at work. I got one more ratchet left. Like I said, there was 2 tools left. This is the second to the last. Got one more, and we'll close this up. So this is my 1/4 inch version of that. And this is actually the first one that I bought. And I want to say that I bought this one off of eBay. And again, once I paid maybe $49, $59 for this. I believe they're $100 right now. But it answered a lot of my questions as far as, you know, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to use it for. And, you know, does it have enough power to get me through the day, and, you know, how often do I have to charge it? Answered a lot of questions without having to, you know, buy a very expensive brand and depend on, you know, what they told you. Not that I'm saying that this will do everything that the Snap-on will do, but it answered a lot of questions for me as far as what I was using it for at the time. I love this thing for timing belts. I love this thing for some of the intakes I pulled, and when I was doing cylinder heads. There's a number of things that I use this on. Air compressors, when I did air compressor services as far as air conditioning, fans, cooling fans, and just a number of things. This was just a great ratchet. Never had any problem with it. There was times that the head will slip. Like I said, this is just a cheap 1/4 inch head that you'll find in just about any ratchet. Any off-brand ratchet, CIA ratchet, even the Central Pneumatics and so forth. Once again, this is a 2-piece head design, so you're not going to be able to put a lot of leverage on this, but this is 1/4 inch and you're not going to be able to. You'll end up snapping the anvil probably before you even break this housing here. The 3/8 is going to be just the opposite. You'll probably produce enough leverage to actually break this. And I believe Client Graphics, before he quit making videos, made a video on the 3/8 version. He took some lug nuts loose, and it took well over 100 foot-pounds to actually break this. But that is not what this is actually designed for. So I wouldn't put a lot of dependability in it as far as breaking caliper bolts or anything like that in the 3/8 version of this ratchet. But But you know, if you do a lot of engine compartment, you know, work and stuff like that, I think you're going to be just fine as far as intake manifolds, exhaust manifolds, fans, radiators, timing belts, things of that nature. And once again, like I said, I absolutely love the paddle on this. I even think that the new Milwaukee angle grinder has a similar handle on it. So very impressed about that. I'm so glad to see that it got away from the paddle bit on the Milwaukee stuff. And like I said, I've always liked this design on this. Everybody says they hate the paddle bit, but this is actually enclosed. It's pointed down. It's more like a button, so you can hold it way down here at the base. So I've always been fond of this particular trigger over the one that goes the opposite way that has things that get caught into it because it's open, like this guy. So really like this, and really like that I see on the new Milwaukees, as far as their angle grinder, they incorporated it on theirs as well. Same problem with the battery, overhangs a little bit, so if you're dependent on the long length of this to get bolts out, then you know the battery can be a little stubborn. But other than that, this has been a great ratchet. Had it in my stable for a while, and the quarter wrench one was the first one that I bought, and it made me pull the trigger on buying the Milwaukee. So eventually I stepped up to a snap-on one, and I actually used them both, but I actually like the snap-on a little better because of the button on it. Like I explained here, you can grab it really low. You don't have to worry about it getting stuck. You don't have to worry about stuff getting stuck underneath it and breaking it, or you put it in your drawer and you have a charger or something, and you have to worry about getting snagged on it and jerking the handle on it or yanking everything out of your drawer. So there's a lot of great trade-offs of this particular style here. And these are fairly expensive. Like I said, if you're in this battery platform, $100 for a ratchet is not anything ridiculous. If you can get a 10%, 15%, 20%, or 25% coupon, and they are out there. I mean, there is times that they send a no exclusion 25% for certain customers to get you back in the store. They just had 10% sale this weekend. If you're an ITC customer, they just had 15% and 20%. So there is a number of coupons out there that you can buy this fairly less, probably around 80, 90 bucks or less. And they go on sale sometimes 30% off. So there's a lot of sales out there. If this is something you're looking for, it's been dependable for me, and just figured I'd share, you know, my experience with them. The only one that I've had a problem with, and I'll put it back out here, has been this reciprocating saw. If anybody asked me what I thought of this, I would not recommend this to anybody. And I've read reviews on this that everybody says this is the greatest thing. This is the worst saw that I have ever bought. The only reason I still have it is because they continue to warranty it. But all the other tools I have showed you today, I have not had a problem. And the only one I really can't be honest with you about is this one, because I haven't put it to use yet. But if you guys have any questions about any of the Hercules tools you're seeing here, I'll be glad to answer them below. Give me a like, share, subscribe, and we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night.